Good evening, welcome to ITV News. This is Friday night's calendar.
Good evening, here are tonight's main stories.
Moorland fires. After 7 incidents this year on Marsden Moor, suspicions are raised they could have been started deliberately.
There are lots of conversations regarding climate change, land management. I think the majority of fires across the country that people go to as wildfires are by human intervention.
Caravan tragedy. The mother of a 2-year-old who died in a fire hopes a meeting with the government may prompt safety improvements.
My daughter didn't go for no reason, so she's gone to... I'd feel comfort if she did make a change.
Pit Town revival, how the Dearne Valley is set to benefit from £23 million of investment. We asked locals if it's enough.
And it's jawsome. Find out why the latest addition to the fish and chip menu is shark. But would you try it?
No, definitely not.
Why?
I don't know, I think it's wrong.
Thank you for joining us. And first tonight, to growing suspicions that a spate of wildfires on Marsden Moor in West Yorkshire could have been started deliberately.
Multiple fires so far this year have taken up hundreds of man-hours by the region's fire service as well as National Trust rangers to bring under control.
Tonight, West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service has told us this programme that the number of fires is highly unusual and they have to consider whether there could be human involvement. Michael Billington reports.
Yet another smoke-filled moor, this time above the Wessendon Valley on Monday night. The 7th wildfire on Marsden Moor near Huddersfield since February. And it's the frequency of incidents like this that has raised suspicions about whether many of these fires could have been started deliberately.
Everybody remembers the 2019 Marsden Moor fire on here. That same weekend we had a fire at Ilkley Moor, the same weekend, which was a drain on our resources. Since that time, we've been back here over 23 times to Marsden Moor, and Ilkley Moor, we've not been back since to fight a wildfire with such resources. So that in itself is very unusual.
That then raises questions about whether there's some sort of human involvement.
I think you have to think that way, and there are lots of conversations regarding climate change, land management. I think the majority of fires across the country that people go to as wildfires are by human intervention, whether that's deliberate, whether that's carelessness or accidental. The majority of fires are human intervention.
This swathe of moorland close to Redbrook Reservoir bears the scars of a fire last month that saw crews from West Yorkshire and over the border in Greater Manchester spend hours with specialist vehicles and sometimes by hand fighting back the flames. It's now 4 weeks since the fire here on Close Moss, and while the grasses may make it look like the moor is recovering well, there are also still plenty of bits of black charred peat here, and the experts say what's been lost beneath the surface could take months if not years to bounce back.
It is heartbreaking because we know the long-term damage it's doing to species of plants, to wildlife. When our teams come down from the moors after supporting the fire and rescue service, they bring back photographs of nests with either eggs or young birds, animals like frogs that just can't escape the fire. And again, it will take years for those species to recover.
Rangers are using satellite images to assess the extent of the fires, but say widespread damage has been caused to around 3 million square metres of Marsden Moor already this year. Now they're urging the public to remain vigilant to prevent any further damage to this beautiful part of West Yorkshire's landscape. Michael Billington, ITV News at Marsden Moor.
A Newark mother's bid to improve caravan safety after the tragic death of her 2-year-old daughter has moved a step closer after she secured a meeting with ministers on the issue.
Louisiana Brooke Dolan died while on holiday in Ingelmelds in 2021. An inquest heard the fire started in a boiler cupboard but could not decide on how it happened.
Her mother, Natasha Broadley, is now fighting for a change in the law to improve safety for others and give her hope that her daughter didn't die in vain. Amelia Beckett reports.
It was her first holiday. which so tragically became her last. Louisiana was just 2 years old when the caravan she was staying in suddenly caught fire. Her mother, Natasha, did all she could to save her 4 children. But it took hold so quickly, her youngest daughter never made it out.
I died with her. I was numb. I'm still numb now. And not being able, I couldn't even look at my kids because it felt like they all died, if you know what I mean. Hard. Very hard.
An inquest heard that the gas safety certificate for the caravan's boiler was out of date and there were no working smoke alarms. But although the fire started in the boiler cupboard, an exact cause could not be established.
It took 7 minutes for that chalet to burn down, and we could have been alerted. We could have had 6 minutes to get out, not 60 seconds. And it wasn't even 60 seconds, really, was it, Lud? It wasn't even in that.
Natasha is now campaigning for annual gas safety checks and smoke alarms in all caravans to become a legal requirement. After a meeting with her local MP, she's taking her fight to Parliament, where she'll raise her concerns with the Minister for Crime, Policing and Fire.
My daughter didn't go for no reason, so she's gone to... I'd feel comfort if she did make a change. Because we want to feel safe on our holiday home, not check our own safety, do we not know.
Lava Leisure, which owns the site Natasha was staying on, previously said it was wholly supportive of the measures she's proposing. And today, the National Caravans Council told us they will be at the meeting alongside her. A meeting she hopes will be the start of a lasting legacy for little Louisiana.
What do you think she would think of you?
I hope she's proud. I hope she's proud. I'm going to give her the justice that she deserves, because we only went on holiday.
Natasha Broadley ending that report from Amelia Beckett. Now, next tonight, there's been industrial action in the NHS and on the trains today in our region. So let's go to Rotherham first, where Unite members, including paramedics and call handlers, have walked out in an ongoing row over pay. John Hill is there for us. John, just tell us, first of all, are ambulances still turning out?
They are, but there's a warning from the Yorkshire Ambulance Service that there could be delays in response times to emergency calls. In fact, bosses at the service are urging people only to call 999 in a genuine life-threatening emergency if somebody quotes is in a very serious condition. This is the call centre of one of the Yorkshire Ambulance Services, actually the call centre here at Watt-upon-Dearne, but actually it affects other call centres and also ambulance stations elsewhere in the region as well. The Unite union, as you say, is the one in dispute. Let's talk to Alison Grocrock from the union. Alison, what do you say to people who are waiting for an ambulance, maybe an urgent case today, and one either won't turn up or will be delayed?
So I do apologise to those people. Obviously we all join the service to make sure patients get the care they need, but unfortunately if things carry on the way they are with pay and the working conditions, this is going to be our reality every day and not just today while we're out on strike.
But it's worth saying other unions have settled, you haven't.
No, we value the staff more and think they deserve more.
Alison, for now, thank you. So that's the situation here at Watt-upon-Dearne and elsewhere at ambulance call centres and stations elsewhere in the region. It's worth saying that other ambulance unions staff from those unions received the 5% pay award in their salary yesterday. We await to see what happens with the Unite union now, of course.
And John, it's not just NHS workers who are out on strike today, is it?
No trouble on the rail. Well, on the rails, we've heard that before, haven't we? The RMT Transport Union are out on strike again. There was a disruption this morning for the morning commute, particular problems for LNER passengers and those on Northern Rail. And then tomorrow, ASLEF, the Train Drivers Union, they're pursuing their pay and conditions award, and they're out on strike again tomorrow. So really, passengers are being advised to check with their operator to see what services will be operating.
Yes, unfortunately, we've seen nearly 20 days of industrial action. We have inconvenienced people. We've inconvenienced our membership as well, because they've had to take this action in defence of the jobs, terms and conditions, and getting themselves a pay rise.
Well, that's what the RMT says. The government says it is, quote, disappointing that the strikes are happening, and it says that the original payoff as it's made are fair. On the transport strike, well, a transport minister told ITV today that it's doing everything it can to facilitate talks between the union and the train operating companies. We await to see, though, what happens tomorrow. There could be substantial disruption again on the trains.
We shall see, yes. Thank you very much. John Hill in Rotherham.
Thank you for being with us for Friday's calendar, and still to come, fish and chips with a bite. How a small shark is now back on the menu after fishing restrictions were lifted.
And in the weather, it was indeed a perfect washing day today. Sunshine and a bit of a breeze, and even any stubborn cloud lifted more readily than it did yesterday. Tomorrow it's going to break up quicker still, and I think we know in which direction the forecast is going, but I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
Some more of the day's news now. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a woman was found dead at a property in Sheffield. 48-year-old Emily Sanderson's body was recovered from an address on Crofton Avenue in Hillsborough on Tuesday afternoon. She'd suffered serious head injuries. Police say she'd been reported missing on the 25th of May. A woman has been arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender. South Yorkshire Police has also referred itself to the Independent Office of Police Conduct in relation to the incident.
The Dearne Valley in South Yorkshire is set to benefit from £23 million of investment as part of the government's plans to level up the UK economy.
One of those places set to benefit is the village of Goldthorpe. It's a town beset by problems since the demolition of its colliery in the 1990s.
Next week, work will begin on a new town square for the village. But is it enough? Adam Fowler's been finding out what locals make of the plans.
This is an artist's impression of what Goldthorpe's new town square might look like. A place for community events, for people to socialise and even host a market. And this was the reaction to the plans on the streets of Goldthorpe today.
It's a good idea because it'll help out kids, give them somewhere to go instead of being on streets.
What would it really make a difference?
You don't think it would?
No.
Nice thing to have though, no?
No, they should spend money on building a factory, then people can work.
Yes, it looked very nice.
That's what we need in Goldthorpe.
It is, we need something. Make it look nice like it used to be when I was a youngster growing up. Yeah. Best little town going, this.
Goldthorpe used to depend on coal mining, with the first colliery opening here in 1678. But it closed for good in 1994, with a huge impact on the local economy. When Baroness Margaret Thatcher died in 2013, up to 2,000 people assembled in Goldthorpe, where they burned an effigy and had a coffin labelled with the word scab. That floral arrangement was done by Annette at Petit Fleur, who says the money could be better spent.
It's going to look lovely. It'll make it a lot better than what it is. But the only problem is we've got a lot of youth what come in Goldthorpe. Hell of a lot of youth. Not necessarily from Goldthorpe, they're coming from Bolton, Durnskey, Darfield, whatever. But I think they'll just ruin it. I think they'll spoil it for the community in Goldthorpe.
Is that a big problem, antisocial behaviour?
Yes, very, very much. Had a lot of break-ins in the shops in Goldthorpe, not just me. I mean, I've been broken into 3 times. Other shops, some have been broken into 5 times. Very bad.
This beauty salon's been broken into once since it opened in March last year. They also believe other uses could be found for the money.
I do believe they actually use it on something else. We were told they had planning permission for our old school site to be made into shops, and that's supposed to have gone through. And as yet, now it's happened, which is a shame because it's a big piece of land. When I was growing up, that's what it was. Shops brought people out into the community, hustle and bustle. Now you don't see that anywhere, and it's a shame.
It's great to see the money's being made available to smarten the place up, because it has been, it has run down a little bit, and I think it's a fantastic idea, I really do.
The money is part of a £23 million investment in the Dearne Valley area, and Councillor Robert Frost says it's a start.
We're hoping to bring in other finance, such as brown funding from Simca and private finance for the employment side, and this is just a start to a lot of the improvements that we need in Goldthorpe, to the housing, to the health of the people, for more and better employment as well.
The work is due to start next week and finish in September. Adam Fowler, ITV News, Goldthorpe.
Yes, good to hear from the people of Goldthorpe on the programme this evening. Now then, changing the subject, have you ever fancied going to university but felt it just wasn't possible? That's where the Open University can help.
Yes, you can study on your own terms and you can fit it in around any other commitments that you may have. And plenty of people have taken advantage of this, as it's now 50 years since the first graduation ceremony for Open University students.
And as Kevin Ashford reports, it's opened the door for many people who'd previously felt excluded from higher education, like Raymond Barber from Baildon, whose degree led to a successful career.
Michael Shaw.
Good heavens.
Michael Shaw has never seen this footage before. It's him at the first Open University graduation ceremony in 1973. Michael, who's a retired head teacher, took an OU degree because he'd left school with no A-levels and he wanted to prove to himself that he could complete higher education. Michael says pre-internet distance learning was challenging.
Did the tutor marked assignments, posted them off, watched the television. We didn't have no video. Listened to the radio, made notes as I went, and it was very much, yes. Looking back, it was almost like an early science fiction film in a way. You know, I think everybody was learning, the OU as well as us.
There's flexibility in how long OU degrees can take to complete, which means many students fit in studies around other commitments. Raymond Barber from Baildon in Bradford left school with no qualifications, but he says his OU degree led to a successful career. Studying, though, did mean some sacrifices.
We had our first house then, and I was doing science units. And in those days, you got a large home experiment kit, which basically meant I changed our kitchen into a laboratory. And so my poor wife Teresa couldn't get in there to cook. She was going mad.
In 1972, there were 36,000 students on Open University courses. There are now more than 200,000. And since the OU opened, 2.2 million students have graduated. There are no formal entry requirements for most OU courses, and staff say the aim is, as it was half a century ago, making higher education open to all.
Whilst this is about the millions that have graduated with us, every story is important to us. So on an individual level, it doesn't matter where you began, who you were, where you came from, what kind of circumstances you might have started with. We believe that everybody has a bright future, and it's our job to make it possible.
OU learning isn't for everyone. It can be missing out on a lot of the traditional student experience. But there's no doubt the Open University has changed the shape of higher education over the last half century. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
I just remember it was the only thing you could watch on the telly through the night.
Yes, long before the days of breakfast TV, that was it, wasn't it? All you
Yeah.
could watch in the morning was the Open University.
Well, the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Geraint Vincent.
Coming up on the programme, Philip Schofield lays bare the impact of the past week. The former presenter says he's lost everything since he quit the show. But what next for ITV? A life sentence for the teenage Islamic State fanatic charged with plotting acts of terrorism. Boris Johnson tells the COVID inquiry that if it was up to him, he'd let them have all his WhatsApp messages. And it's an all-Manchester affair on Saturday as City take on United for the FA Cup. So what's at stake for both teams? Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Well, Geraint, thanks very much indeed. Time for some sport now, and Sam Allardyce has left Leeds United after his short spell in charge. The 68-year-old was brought in as part of a last-ditch effort to keep the club in the Premier League. During his 4-game tenure, he failed to pick up any wins, and Leeds were relegated on the final day of the season. The club says it hopes to appoint a new manager in the coming weeks.
The Leeds Rhinos will pay tribute to the late Doddy Weir by wearing a special shirt during Rugby League's Magic Weekend. Doddy, who lost his battle with motor neurone disease last year, was a mentor to Rob Burrow when he was diagnosed with the condition in 2019. £10 from every shirt sold will go to the Doddy Weir Foundation.
We all know he suffered with MND, and so did Rob, and they seemed to form a close bond
as they were both going through the same thing, and that brought Doddy to tie in with the club, and that's how they started getting close. And obviously we just want to support Doddy and Rob in any way we could, and the foundation that he has, we obviously want to support that and try help find a cure for MND.
Now, we all know, of course, that Sheffield has been a real hotbed for boxing over the years, with the city producing the likes of Prince Nazim Hamed, Johnny Nelson and Kell Brook. Well, now there's a new trio to look out for.
That's right. The new generation of top-level fighters, the likes of Sonny Edwards, Dalton Smith and Junaid Boston, are the new kids on the block. Arif Ahmed's been to meet them ahead of their upcoming fights.
Lights, camera, action. Sonny Edwards, Dalton Smith and Junaid Boston are three of the most promising boxers coming out of Sheffield, and they were in the spotlight this afternoon as they put on a show for the media ahead of their upcoming fights. Sonny is 9 days away from defending his world flyweight title. As one of the sport's most naturally gifted boxers, he won't want to get bitten when he steps into the ring against the Chilean crocodile, Andreas Campos.
Now I really feel like my career started. I feel like I'm 3-0. I feel like I'm in proper fights, world level, world title fights, the fights that I've dreamed about being in. I'm 3-0 and I'm looking to go for in my 4th world title defence.
3 weeks after Sonny has his day in the sun, stablemate Dalton Smith will be the headline act in his home city of Sheffield. A born and bred Blue, he watched his beloved Sheffield Wednesday win promotion at Wembley on Monday. Now he wants to emulate his footballing heroes by adding the Commonwealth title to his British belt.
Make it a double. You know, my first trip down to Wembley, and you know we came away with the win, so it always makes it better. And they always come out in force for me, and you know show great support. And you know it's like when I go to them, you know I'm in the thick of it with them. You know I want to support them the best I can. You know and they're doing the same for me, so you know good things are on the horizon.
The youngest of the three is hot prospect Junaid Boston. He's fast making a name for himself as a knockout artist. With his first 5 opponents hitting the canvas, he has no plans of stopping.
Can't complain, 5 fights, 5 knockouts, so I'm doing my side of the part. It's just a matter of keeping it going.
And looking for a 6th?
Definitely. 6 for 6, got a ring to it, so a stoppage would be ideal.
Sheffield has been a hotbed of boxing success in the past, and with these three, the future looks bright in the Steel City. Arif Ahmed, ITV News, Sheffield.
Well, it's Fish Friday, isn't it? And you might be sitting down to a plate of fish and chips as we speak. But the rising cost of living is affecting the cost of staples like fish and chips. And the latest addition to the menu is a little left field to get around that. If you're not a fishmonger, that is.
Well, how about, wait for it, shark and chips? It's like cod with a bit more bite. Who writes this stuff? I don't know. Well, it's a reality because a recent ban on fishing, spur dog, which is a small shark, thankfully, has been lifted after a 13-year ban.
Stocks have now been replenished to safer levels and it could prove to be much cheaper than traditional favourites. Nick Smith reports.
Our fishing industry has had a turbulent time of late, getting to grips with new rules on exporting, along with spiralling costs in fuelling their vessels. But those whose livelihoods depend on what we catch in our waters have been handed a new lifeline. Like many things, our fishing industry isn't immune from rising inflation. In fact, in the last 2 years, the price of cod fillets has jumped from £9 a kilogram to £12. But there could be a cheaper solution within our own waters. For the first time in 13 years, our fishermen can catch spur dog again, putting British rock and chips firmly back on the menu. Spur dog is a small shark species which used to be a common alternative to traditional whitefish. And the fact it can be caught locally rather than imported means it can be valued at as little as £3 per kilo. Those overseeing fishing operations here tell me they've worked alongside scientists to monitor their numbers.
The fishing industry has worked on collecting a lot of data to really understand where's the distribution of the stock, how healthy is it, how much recovery is going on and what rate. It's in the fishing industry's best interest to make sure we manage this fishery sensibly and sustainably. But whilst we've got a good abundance there, or a rising abundance, it's really important we do land this.
Lucas Lambroom is a fish and chip shop owner who's delighted he can put locally sourced rock and chips back on the menu.
It's quite meaty, full of flavour, packed full of flavour, quite soft yet quite meaty texture. and it's a traditional old school fish. It also means that we have access to local fish from local fishermen supporting local fisheries as well, which in the past we've had to import from abroad like Canada or America, but now we can buy fish from our shores.
Well, we asked people in Barnsley if they would give it a try.
It's a bit strange, isn't it, shark? Yeah, obviously not used to like cod, when you go to a sort of fish and chip shop, it's mostly cod, isn't it, you usually have, so shark will be different.
What you want though is little pieces for everybody to try first, and then they'll say,
I'd give it a try. Yeah, sure. Have you got any samples?
No, definitely not.
Why?
I don't know, I think it's wrong.
But the advice from environmental experts on fishing for spurdog is to proceed with caution due to its sensitive breeding cycle.
You need to be really cautious with the management of this species. It is a vulnerable species, and it is possible that opening the fishery too quickly could be too much too soon. Most spurdog reach maturity around 10 to 15 years, and they only reproduce every few years. Therefore, it can take decades for a species such as this to recover from overfishing.
While the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs says they will use the latest scientific advice and ensure appropriate management measures are in place so we are able to facilitate spurdog's ongoing recovery, as this little native shark is brought back onto our plates once again. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Yeah, very tasty. Spurdog and chips, and make it snappy, please.
Here's Emma with the weather.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello there, hope you've had a lovely Friday. The weekend is here and it looks set to stay fine and dry. We had some stubborn cloud overhead today, but it did break up more readily than yesterday, and tomorrow it's going to break up even more readily and will lift very quickly. There'll be more sun around tomorrow and we'll certainly feel the benefit at the coast. So taking a closer look, the high pressure is still anchored up to the northwest of us. It looks like it's going to stay there for at least another 7 days or so. And even when it does break down, it looks like it's going to break down from the south first of all. And there isn't any rain in the forecast for the foreseeable future, but potentially 1 or 2 chilly nights. So gardeners beware. Taking a closer look at the next few hours, you can see that after a fine end to the day for most of us, the cloud starts to spill in again across the coast and push westwards. You can see 1 or 2 spots of what look like mist on here. I think they're just bits and pieces of patchy hill fog in places. There'll be quite a lot of cloud around and temperatures around 4 or 5 Celsius. If they do dip close to freezing, then they won't be there for very long, and they'll start to lift around 8 or 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Talking of which, the sun is up at 4:41, sets at 9:28, and we're expecting a full strawberry moon over the weekend. It's actually going to be at its fullest on Saturday night, so you might want to watch out for that one. So as we head into Saturday, early mist will lift very quickly. Also, the same goes for the low cloud, and it opens up to lots of sunshine. It's going to feel noticeably warmer at the coast tomorrow, and also further inland, temperatures up a couple of degrees on today's values, around 20 Celsius, maybe pushing a 21, and with high UV as well. After that, it looks pretty similar for Sunday and Monday, maybe a bit more cloud around on Monday, but that will lift and break later on, and I think we'll feel these temperatures more. Here's your pollen.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
So the grass pollen season's in full swing now, and as more grasses come into flower, there will also be some nettle and plantain airborne, and also 1 or 2 fungal spores. Counts high over the next few days. Bye-bye. Emma, thank you. I'm looking forward to the weekend.
It looks great, doesn't it? Whatever you're doing, I hope you enjoy the weather, and join us again, won't you, on Monday. That's This Week Done and Dusted from Lara and me. A very good night.
Good night.